test video with reduced resolution 720, I think, or 7, whatever, at 30 frames per second. Same. Making this short so it'll upload faster. That's enough. In this video, I want to review the changes that have been made to the book over the last week. They're a result of, for the most part, of the discussions we had at that time. So just to review, this is the cover, which remains unchanged. This then was the original title page, and at that time this was the second edition of the title page, which I adopted once the cover had been finalized in the design that I just showed. The suggestion was made that I consider stretching road tripping. And after several attempts, this is what I arrived at. I like this one very much, and just to review, this is what you'll see after you see this. So I want the title page to communicate how serious I approach this art form of a photo book, whereas the cover may not lead you to think that. And Ting and I both kind of like this, but she had another suggestion, Ting had another suggestion, which was to stretch it even more. So this is the extreme stretch version. And then, after agreeing that this was perhaps better, an idea was presented by Ting that I call the 4th edition Ting's Concept. And since this came to me in an email, I'm not sure I've executed it entirely in the way in which she intended. So this is a draft presentation of that for discussion. But just to go back, this would be my choice, my first choice. Okay, the next area that got a lot of discussion was my preface, and this was the original. And it's a little wordy. It's too wordy. The suggestion was I look for a quote to put on this page. And I intend to include these thoughts in an artist statement at the end of the book. So after, and I said at the time, oh, I can write something pretty good. And after a lot of attempt, I started looking for quotes, and I found a few. This was one that I like very much. Oops, that's not the first one. This is one that I like very much. The freedom of the open road is seductive, serendipitous, and absolutely liberating. I like the idea. I like seductive, serendipitous, and liberating. And then I found this one, Jack Kerouac. Nothing behind me, everything ahead of me, as is ever so on the road, Jack Kerouac. I like this one a lot, for a lot of reasons other than just what it says, for its roots in my early fascination with road trips and the book On the Road and many of the things that came out of those times. So this may be my current favorite. This is Simplicity. And so the adventure begins, unknown source. And then this one is quite simple as well. Roads were made for journeys, not destinations. Confucius. So those are the four that I picked, and I'll take votes. However, Kerouac, or the first one, this one by Aaron, who, by the way, wrote a book about his own personal extended road trip in which he explored almost all of the lower 48 states in around a year or so driving. So those are the suggestions for that section. And then the next section was this departing, and I'm starting with the pictures that I like very much at that time, and these page numbers refer to their previous position in the book, so this is just to kind of refresh the starting point for this section. And then it moved to this transition. Actually, the original was this, but we flopped them to provide to make a better transition into the next. And I went a little bit further, and I thought, well, how about if I put the meal on a red table? And I started doing like that, and I'm working on a version of this that will actually be a red checkered tablecloth, red and white checkered tablecloth. That may be the final, but I sort of like that. And that feeds then into this next transition. Again, these numbers refer, this hasn't changed. It was just those previous two pages that needed some work, and so those were the choices there. The original and this idea that's in work. So that then goes into the going home section of photographs, which I had a feeling about previously that I kind of not given it as much attention as I had in the first part of the book. The first part I feel being very solid. So this stuff is all new, and I've not given them any official page numbers. I've just numbered them 1, 2, and so on. So I'll just move through these. These first four I have thought about perhaps condensing them into 2 per page. In other words, 2, they would be 4 by 3, very much like the rearview mirror series in the previous. And then these 2 on the facing page. And then leading to this, which is sort of gives you a transition. The sun's going down, and it's time for an evening meal. And by the way, I do eat eggs 24 hours a day, wherever I can find them, but only while I'm traveling. And then night. And I kind of like this pair. And then that leads to this, sun coming up. I put, whenever the sun comes up, I think of the George Harrison Beatles song from Abbey Road album, Here Comes the Sun, do, 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 here comes the sun. And I say it's all right, sun, 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 here it comes, sun, sun, here it comes. And that goes on for 4 times. And if I could, I would sing it, but I can't. I like these. What I'm going to do, however, is put this image here and put these words on this, and then put that image over here, because obviously the sun's coming up here. So anyway, I think you understand what I'm saying. Just flip the images and put the words with that one. And I think that makes a nice pair and gives you a transition then into further driving. And now that's kind of where, as far as I've gone so far in this section, this Fort Worth sign, which is still 300 miles to go, sets up a whole series of images which I haven't sequenced or edited yet. I've got most of the images picked out that will result in the same end as I had last time. So those are the changes that I want to talk about.